April 7, 1945. A salt mine deep in the Austrian Alps near the village of Altaci. Captain Robert Posey of the U.S. Army stands at the entrance to a tunnel carved into solid rock. He's a museum curator from New Jersey. Middle-aged. Wears glasses. Never fired a gun in combat. Not exactly your typical American soldier. But today he's about to discover something that will change art history forever. Behind him, German miners wait nervously. They've been guarding this mine for months, following Hitler's orders. Orders that said if Germany loses the war, destroy everything. Burn it. Blow it up. Leave nothing for the enemy. And inside this mine, stacked in chambers carved into salt walls, are thousands of Europe's greatest masterpieces. Michelangelo's Madonna of Bruges. Vermeer's The Art of Painting. Works by Rembrandt, Raphael, Van Eyck. Treasures stolen from museums across Europe. Hidden here. Waiting. The German miners just told Posey something terrifying. There are 8 500-pound bombs planted throughout the mine. Time to detonate. Hitler's final revenge. If he can't have Europe's art, nobody can. The fuses are lit. Maybe days left. Maybe hours. Posey needs to disarm them. Needs to save thousands of irreplaceable masterpieces. Needs to do it now. Except he's not a bomb disposal expert. He's a museum curator. But that's exactly why he's here. Because in 1943 someone had a crazy idea. What if you sent art experts to war? Not to fight. To save. To protect humanity's cultural heritage from destruction. From both sides. From the Nazis who wanted to steal everything. And from Allied bombers who might accidentally destroy it. Welcome to the Monuments Men. 345 volunteers from 13 nations. Museum directors. Curators. Art historians. Architects. Professors. Average age 40. The oldest heroes of World War II. Men and women who traded hushed galleries for battlefields. Who risked their lives not to kill but to save. Who recovered over 5 million stolen artworks. And who proved that civilization is worth dying for. This is the story of unlikely warriors. Of middle-aged scholars racing against time. Of art hidden in salt mines and castles. Of a French woman who spied on Nazis for 4 years. And of the greatest treasure hunt in history. Let's talk about the people who saved Western civilization one painting at a time. 1933, Adolf Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. Within weeks, he begins systematically stealing art. Not random theft. Organized plunder. Industrial-scale cultural genocide. Hitler has a vision. Transform his hometown of Linz, Austria, into the cultural capital of the Third Reich. Build the Führer Museum. The world's greatest art museum. Filled with masterpieces stolen from across Europe. He creates the Einsatzstab Reichsleiter Rosenberg. The IRR. Nazi art looting organization. Their mission is simple. Seize every significant artwork in occupied territories. Catalog it. Ship it to Germany. Priority targets are Jewish-owned collections. The Rothschilds. The Rosenbergs. The Wildensteins. Families whose art Hitler declares stolen from Germany during previous wars. He's taking it back. Along with everything else he wants. By 1940, the IRR operates openly in Paris. Sets up headquarters at the Jeu de Paume Museum. Stolen art flows through daily. Paintings. Sculptures. Tapestries. Furniture. Books. Religious artifacts. Everything of value. Art historians catalog it. Photographers document it. Then they ship it to Germany. To castles. To salt mines. To Hitler's personal collection. Hermann Göring personally visits the Jeu de Paume 20 times. Chooses artworks for himself. Takes Vermeers. Rembrandts. Whatever he wants. The second most powerful man in Nazi Germany building his private collection from Jewish families' stolen treasures. It's systematic. Efficient. Evil. Meanwhile in America, museum professionals are watching with horror. George Stout works at Harvard's Fogg Museum. He's a conservator. Spent his career preserving artworks. Now he's watching civilization's heritage being destroyed. Not just stolen. Destroyed. Allied bombing is necessary to win the war. But it's also obliterating European cities, churches, museums, monuments. Thousands of years of human achievement being reduced to rubble. Stout has an idea. A crazy idea. What if the military employed art experts? People who could identify important monuments. Advise bombers which targets to avoid. Protect cultural heritage even while waging total war. It sounds impossible. Impractical. How do you fight a war while worrying about paintings? But Stout is persistent. He writes proposals, contacts museum directors, gets support from the National Gallery of Art, the Metropolitan Museum. In 1942, they approach Supreme Court Justice Owen Roberts, a National Gallery board member, art lover. They convince him. Roberts convinces President Franklin Roosevelt. And on August 20, 1943, Roosevelt establishes the American Commission for the Protection and Salvage of Artistic and Historic Monuments in War Areas, the Roberts Commission. Its mission: protect European cultural heritage, prevent Allied damage to monuments, recover stolen artworks, return them to rightful owners, and do all this while fighting the most destructive war in human history. The commission needs people, volunteers, art experts willing to put on uniforms, risk their lives, for paintings. The call goes out, and remarkably people answer. Museum directors in their 40s and 50s volunteer, curators with families, professors with tenure, people who've made it in civilian life, giving it up, putting on uniforms, going to war, not to kill, to save. James Rorimer volunteers. He's assistant curator at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, medieval art specialist, 37 years old, married, could easily sit out the war in New York. Instead, he joins the army, becomes a captain, heads to Europe, eventually becomes one of the most successful monuments men. After the war, he'll return to the Met, become its director, one of the most powerful figures in American art. But first, he's got to survive France and Germany with minimal weapons training and maximum determination. Lincoln Kirstein volunteers. Harvard educated, co-founder of the New York City Ballet, art patron, intellectual. He joins as a private, not even an officer, just a soldier, willing to do whatever it takes. After the war, he'll revolutionize American dance. But that's later. Right now, he's crawling through bombed-out buildings looking for stolen Rembrandts. Walker Hancock volunteers. Sculptor. Won the Rome Prize. His work is in major museums. He's 43. Too old for regular combat duty. Perfect for the monuments men. He'll spend 2 years in Europe, locating hidden art, documenting damage, writing reports that guide recovery efforts. 345 people total, from 13 nations: British, American, French, Canadian, Belgian. They call themselves the Monuments, Fine Arts, and Archives Program. But everyone else calls them the Monuments Men, and they have the hardest job imaginable. Save civilization's treasures while civilization destroys itself. June 6, 1944. D-Day. Allied forces storm Normandy beaches. The Monuments Men go with them. Not in the first wave. They're not combat troops. But days later they arrive. Start assessing damage. What's destroyed? What's salvageable? What needs immediate protection? They work behind advancing armies, racing to secure churches, museums, monuments, before bombing, before looting, before time runs out. The challenges are immediate and overwhelming. Allied commanders don't understand why art matters. We're fighting a war, they say. Who cares about paintings? The Monuments Men have to explain, over and over, that they're not just fighting for territory. They're fighting for what makes us human: culture, history, beauty, the things that separate civilization from barbarism. Some commanders get it. General Dwight Eisenhower issues orders. Protect cultural monuments whenever possible. Give Monuments Men authority to redirect military operations if necessary. It's unprecedented. An army fighting a war while simultaneously trying to preserve enemy cultural heritage. No military in history has attempted this. But not all commanders cooperate. Some refuse to delay attacks to protect churches. Some artillery units shell historic buildings because they might hide German soldiers. The Monuments Men can advise, but they can't order. They watch in frustration as centuries-old monuments get destroyed. Collateral damage. Necessary sacrifice. Except it's not just military necessity. Sometimes it's carelessness, indifference, not caring. Then there's Rose Valland, French art historian, works at the Jeu de Paume in Paris, where the Nazis catalog stolen art. She's not part of the Monuments Men, not officially, but she's one of the greatest heroes of this story, because Rose Valland is a spy. For 4 years, from 1940 to 1944, Rose works under Nazi supervision, watches them catalog stolen artworks, ship them to Germany, and secretly she records everything. She listens to German conversations, pretends not to understand German while memorizing every word. Notes which trains carry which artworks, where they're going, who ordered the shipments, everything. The Nazis never suspect her. She's just a French museum employee, quiet, unimportant. They discuss classified information in front of her. Rose remembers it all, writes it down in secret, passes information to the French resistance. By the time Paris is liberated in August 1944, Rose has compiled detailed records. Thousands of stolen artworks, documented, tracked. This information will be invaluable. Will help Monuments Men locate art Hitler hid across Germany and Austria. Rose Valland risks her life every day for 4 years. If the Nazis discover she's spying, they'll execute her. But she keeps going. Because art matters. Because stolen heritage must be returned. Because someone has to remember. After the war, France will award her the Légion d'honneur. America will give her the Medal of Freedom. But during the war, she's just a quiet woman taking notes and saving civilization. August 1944. Paris is liberated. The Monuments Men rush to the Jeu de Paume. Find Rose Valland. She hands them her records. Everything the Nazis stole, she says. I know where most of it went. The Monuments Men are stunned. This woman just gave them the greatest intelligence breakthrough of the war. Now they know where to look. But finding the art is only the beginning. As Allied forces advance into Germany, the Monuments Men discover the scale of Nazi looting. It's beyond comprehension. Over 1,000 repositories. Hiding places scattered across Germany and Austria. Castles, mines, churches, warehouses, underground bunkers, each containing stolen artworks. Thousands of paintings, sculptures, tapestries, books, religious artifacts, cultural treasures from across Europe, all stolen, all hidden. Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria, the fairy tale castle that inspired Disney. Inside, the Monuments Men find 21,000 stolen objects, paintings, furniture, rare books, all catalogued in Nazi records, all stolen from Jewish families. The castle's a warehouse, a storage facility for Hitler's planned museum. The Monuments Men start cataloging, photographing, documenting, trying to figure out who owned what, where it came from, where it should go. It's overwhelming. Each object needs research, provenance established, rightful owners identified. Many owners are dead, murdered in concentration camps, their families scattered, their property claims complicated. But the biggest discoveries are in the salt mines. March 1945. American forces discover a salt mine at Merkers, Germany. It's enormous. Tunnels stretch for miles. Deep underground. The Monuments Men enter. What they find is staggering. The German gold reserve. Millions in currency. And art. Hundreds of paintings. Stolen from Berlin museums. Protected underground from Allied bombing. Then April 1945. Altötting, Austria. The salt mine Captain Posey is about to enter. This one's even bigger. The Nazis have been moving stolen art here for years. Over 6,500 paintings, including some of the most famous artworks in history. Michelangelo's Madonna of Bruges, stolen from a church in Belgium. The only Michelangelo sculpture to leave Italy during his lifetime, now sitting in a salt mine, wrapped in paper, stacked among thousands of other treasures. Vermeer's The Art of Painting, stolen from Vienna. Considered Vermeer's masterpiece, hidden 2,000 feet underground. The Ghent altarpiece by Jan van Eyck. 12 massive panels painted in the 1400s. One of the most important artworks of the Northern Renaissance. Stolen from Belgium. Disassembled. Stored in salt. Hitler personally wanted this. Considered it his greatest prize. And the Nazis have planted bombs throughout the mine. Hitler's Nero Decree. Issued March 1945. If Germany is losing, destroy everything. Factories, bridges, art, everything. Leave nothing for the enemy. Some Wehrmacht officers refuse to implement it. Others try. At Altötting, local Nazi leaders are fanatics. They're going to blow the mine. Bury everything under tons of collapsed rock and salt. Destroy thousands of irreplaceable masterpieces rather than let allies have them. But German mine workers aren't fanatics. They're miners. They love their community. These artworks aren't just objects to them. They're humanity's heritage. So the miners rebel. Secretly. They remove the bombs. Hide them. Replace them with fake bombs that won't explode. When Captain Posey enters the mine, the danger is already neutralized. The miners save the art. Ordinary Germans. Risking execution. To protect paintings. Posey doesn't know this at first. He enters expecting bombs, finds art instead. Chamber after chamber carved into salt, each containing hundreds of paintings, sculptures, treasures beyond counting. It's the greatest art discovery in history, and it's safe. The miners protected it. Over the following months, the Monuments Men work systematically. They establish central collecting points: Munich, Wiesbaden, Marburg, Offenbach, locations where recovered art is brought, cataloged, researched, prepared for return. It's painstaking work. Each object must be documented, photographed from multiple angles, compared against stolen art registries, matched to ownership claims. The Munich Central Collecting Point processes over 10,000 objects. Captain James Rorimer becomes its director, supervises the research, the cataloging, the restitution process, works with Rose Valland, who's now officially helping. Together, they match stolen artworks to original owners. Retrito. Many owners are dead. Many records were destroyed. Some claims are contested. It's complicated, emotional, difficult. But gradually, artworks go home. In 1945, the Monuments Men arranged the first major repatriation. Hundreds of paintings returned to Belgium, including the Ghent altarpiece, returned to St. Bavo's Cathedral where it had been for 500 years. The people of Ghent celebrate. Crowds line streets as the altarpiece returns. It's not just art. It's their heritage, their identity, returned. Over the next 3 years, 5 million objects are returned. Paintings, sculptures, books, manuscripts, religious artifacts, furniture, everything the Nazis stole, returned to France, Belgium, Netherlands, Poland, Austria, Italy, everywhere. It's the largest art repatriation in history, and it's only possible because the Monuments Men documented everything, tracked ownership, insisted on proper process. But hundreds of thousands of objects remain missing. Some were destroyed. Some are still hidden. Some were stolen again. By Soviet forces. By opportunistic soldiers. By art dealers. The recovery isn't complete. May never be complete. But the Monuments Men did what seemed impossible. They saved Western civilization's greatest treasures. During history's most destructive war, 2 Monuments Men died during the war. Captain Walter Huchthausen, killed by a sniper in Germany, March 1945. He was documenting damage to a church. Shot. Died protecting culture. Major Ronald Balfour, killed in combat, Netherlands, March 1945. Artillery shell. He was surveying monuments near the front lines. Too close. Dead. 2 deaths out of 345. Remarkably low, but still tragic. They died for paintings, for sculptures, for the idea that humanity's shared heritage is worth protecting. Even during war, especially during war. After the war, the Monuments Men returned to civilian life. James Rorimer becomes director of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, one of the most powerful positions in American art. Lincoln Kirstein founds the New York City Ballet, transforms American dance. Walker Hancock returns to sculpture, creates major commissions. George Stout becomes director of the Worcester Art Museum. They don't talk much about their wartime service. It seems unimportant compared to soldiers who fought in combat, who killed enemy troops, who liberated concentration camps. The Monuments Men saved art. So what? Many people don't understand why that matters. But it does matter. Because civilization is fragile. Culture is precious. Art connects us to our past, to our humanity. The Nazis understood this. That's why they stole art. To erase Jewish culture. To claim Europe's heritage as their own. The Monuments Men understood it too. That's why they risked their lives. Because losing our shared cultural heritage makes us less human, less connected, less civilized. For decades, the Monuments Men are forgotten. A footnote in World War II history. Then in 2007, Robert Edsel publishes The Monuments Men, a book telling their story. It becomes a bestseller. Suddenly, people are learning about these unlikely heroes. In 2009, he publishes Saving Italy. More stories, more recognition. In 2014, George Clooney directs a Hollywood film, The Monuments Men, starring Clooney, Matt Damon, Bill Murray, John Goodman, Cate Blanchett. The film dramatizes their story, takes liberties with history, but introduces millions to the concept that people risked their lives to save art during World War II. In 2014, the surviving Monuments Men received the Congressional Gold Medal, America's highest civilian honor. Only a dozen are still alive, the youngest in his 80s. They accept the medal. Humble, grateful, surprised anyone remembers. Today, the Monuments Men Foundation continues their work. Tracks Nazi-looted art still missing. Helps return stolen objects to rightful owners. Teaches military personnel about cultural heritage protection. Because conflicts haven't stopped. And cultural destruction continues. In 2001, the Taliban destroyed the Buddhas of Bamiyan in Afghanistan. 1,500-year-old statues. Blown up. Lost forever. In 2015, ISIS destroyed Palmyra in Syria. Ancient Roman city. World Heritage Site. Obliterated. In 2024, conflicts in Ukraine threaten cultural sites. Museums. Churches. Monuments. The Monuments Men's mission remains relevant. Urgent. Necessary. The lesson they taught is simple but profound. Civilization is fragile. Culture must be protected. Even during war. Especially during war. Because what makes us human isn't just survival. It's art, music, literature, architecture, the accumulated achievements of thousands of years. Lose that and we're just animals fighting over territory. The Monuments Men understood. They chose to protect rather than destroy, to save rather than kill. And in doing so, they performed one of the most important missions of World War II. They saved our shared heritage. The paintings and sculptures and books that connect us to our past. That inspire future generations. That remind us we're more than soldiers and nations. We're humanity. And humanity is worth saving. Some wars are won with weapons. World War II was also won with care. With scholars who valued culture enough to die for it. With ordinary people like Rose Valland and German miners who risked everything to protect art. With a generation that understood destruction is easy. Preservation is hard. And worth it. The Monuments Men saved 5 million objects. But they saved something more important. They saved the idea that civilization matters. That culture is worth protecting. That art transcends politics and nationality. That we have a responsibility to preserve humanity's achievements for future generations. That's their legacy. Not just the art they saved, but the principle they established. That even in war's darkest hours, we must protect what makes us human. That museums and monuments aren't luxuries. They're necessities. And that sometimes the bravest soldiers are middle-aged professors with glasses, who never fired a gun, but saved civilization anyway.